Hi, welcome back to another podcast with Mr. Hagan. And on this podcast, we're going to start talking about income taxes and the different parts for calculating income taxes, how this gets done. And so let's get right into it. There's some definitions that we need to know for calculating income taxes. And the first definition is a deduction. What is a deduction? And deduction, I'm just going to talk about kind of the mathematics part of this. So a deduction is something that gets subtracted from your income. Okay, it's going to get subtracted from your income before calculating your taxes. So those are the two key parts of a deduction. It gets subtracted from your income and it gets subtracted before you calculate your taxes. Those are the two key parts of a deduction. Now, in contrast to that is what we call a tax credit. So a tax credit is something that gets subtracted as well, but it gets subtracted away from your taxes owed. It's going to get away from your taxes, subtracted from your taxes owed after you have calculated your taxes, after you've calculated your taxes. So the deduction gets subtracted from your income, and that happens before calculating your taxes. The tax credit gets subtracted from your taxes owed, and that happens after you calculate your taxes. That happens after you calculate your taxes. Okay, and I'll do some examples to explain these. Then we have your average tax rate. Your average tax rate is your taxes owed divided by your income multiplied by 100. And again, we'll do an example of this. But so that's the formula that we would use to calculate your average tax rate. And then the marginal tax rate, the MTR, that's just what tax bracket you were in. You would be in if you earned $1 more of income. So if you made $1 more, what tax bracket would that dollar be in? At what level would it get taxed? And again, examples of all of these are coming on some future videos. It's a three-step process to calculating your income taxes. Step number one is to subtract your deductions. That's the first thing that you do. You subtract your deductions from your income. Step number two is you actually do your tax calculations using something that I'm going to call a tax line. And then step number three is you're going to subtract away your tax credit. So whatever your tax credit is, you're going to subtract that away after you calculate your taxes. That's the three-step process that I'm going to use for calculating taxes. And I'll do a couple examples on some future videos. Okay, so this has been Mr. Hagan with a quick introduction to income taxes. We'll do some examples on some future videos. Thanks for joining me. This has been Mr. Hagan on another podcast, and we'll see you on the next Econ podcast.